million. Another good move here, Jay. NBA free agency yesterday. Swaggy P moving north from L.A. to Oakland, taking his scoring talents to the Warriors. It's a one-year deal, just over $5 million for that 1 year for a player who averaged 13 points for the Lakers last season. Now, new teammate Kevin Durant made sure to welcome Nick Young to the squad with this iconic miss 3 years ago, where Swaggy was the last to know the shot found more iron than nylon. He tweeted that picture out. Retweeted over 80,000 times. It's the miss that keeps on giving, by the way. That tweet continues. It's exceeded now 85,000 retweets in the last 18, 19 hours. Lindsay?
Yeah, Kevin, he's not exactly the model of consistency, although in some ways I guess Nick Young is. I'm back with Ryan Russillo now. So Nick Young will not be back with the Lakers. What do you make of these moves, them clearing space for the future?
It's the only move, really, at this point. If you're the Lakers and they can say they're not rebuilding, it's such a dirty word when you talk to the marketing side of a team and the sponsorship.
Rebuilding, yeah.
It's almost like we have a really hard time with the truth, and they're rebuilding.
Right.
It's okay to say that we're rebuilding. They don't want to say it. But this is about Magic being in a position with Rob Pelinka, who's terrific as well, and being able to say to guys, when all of these dudes are free agent next summer, and we're sitting out here talking about it again, that we have space and we want to build something. Because as impressive as Magic is as a person and his resume, it's not going to matter in L.A. until there's already another star in place. These players don't go anywhere unless there's somebody already there. So keeping Nick Young for another $5 million or any of these smaller pieces, it doesn't really mean anything. Everything should be one-year deals, and everything with the Lakers should be built around Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram.
And what do you think of Young with the Warriors?
Well, there's this great thing with the Warriors. Your life just becomes that much easier. And really, I can't think of any circumstance if I were a GM if I'd be like, I got to get JaVale McGee. But if I were the Warriors, I'd want JaVale McGee. And JaVale McGee was terrific
why not,
for them.
right?
Everything's easy. We're not going to ask you to do anything. So all Nick Young has to do now is take all these wide open shots because all the other guys are going to be the defensive priority. So Nick Young's going to be loving life up there. And, I mean, he's a great shooter. But when you take the ball out of Nick Young's hands now where he doesn't have to make decisions, then that's the best Nick Young that you can get. It's a little different when he's running the offense and making all these decisions. He doesn't have to do any of this stuff. He's never going to have an easier time in his NBA career than what he's going to have with Golden State this year.
So basically, they let Nick Young be Nick Young. All right, Ryan Russillo, thank you.
The shooting Nick Young.
Exactly. Right, that one. All right, still ahead here, the best from around the sport.
And what the heck's going on here? The Cavs made a below-market salary offer of $2 million annually to Chauncey Billups to serve as their president of basketball operations. Our Chris Haynes and Mark Spears are reporting this. $4 million, typically the starting point of what an individual in that role should earn, according to league sources. We need more. We welcome in our NBA analyst, Ryan Russillo, who is with us right now, an NBA front office insider who comes to us from L.A., Tom Penn. Tom, I'm going to start with you. You were in an NBA front office for 11 years. All exciting, I'm sure. What's your take on what's going on with Dan Gilbert and the Cavaliers organization right now?
So curious to not have a main decision maker in basketball operations in this particular window of time. The draft and free agency, it's when everything is happening. And what they've done is they've added Jose Calderon to a minimum deal. Not exactly going to move the needle. So I find it just so odd that at this particular time of the year, that organization has chosen to go leaderless, so to speak. The top two in basketball ops move out. And Dan Gilbert is obviously making these decisions himself and is very involved and engaged, knows basketball. He can pull the trigger on deals. But at this time of year, Linda, it's not just simple linear deals. You try to hoist yourself into everything that goes on and see if you can make yourself better while all these other trades are happening. Get into a simultaneous trade. So I find it odd that they haven't had a way to attack this and get the right kind of leader in there. It's been Chauncey or nothing. They offered Chauncey apparently $2 million, which he has deemed to be below market. Others would argue that's just fine. You know, I'm not going to get into that point. But they need somebody in the middle of all these deals to try to make their team better. That's the job of the basketball operations leader, and they don't have one.
I think the biggest thing here is that if you're looking at Chauncey Billups, he does not think, as Tom points out, that entry-level money, like he's going, I'm Chauncey Billups. Like, I'm not. Like, I know what other entry-level guys make, but
My stock is high right now.
Right. So I'm not going to settle here. And if we know one thing about Dan Gilbert that's consistent is that he'll pay any amount of salary. He is the furthest thing from cheap. Highest payroll again this year. Did it the last time LeBron was there. Paid Ty Lue a ton of money, but he does not value this position. So for whatever reason, the way he plans out his business model when it comes to a team, he does not value financially this position. And so if Chauncey was looking for that big payday, which other teams may have done, even though he hasn't done the job before, because they just go on the basketball resume, that wasn't going to happen here for Billups with Dan Gilbert.
He's been consistent, at least in that area. Our Ramona Shelburne and Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that the Celtics are working to clear cap space for Gordon Hayward's max contract, discussing trades involving, you guys know the names, Marcus Smart, Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley. Tom, to you, what's the most likely scenario for the Celtics to get this done?
Well, it's been expensive so far. Every time we would create all that cap room on the cap machine, we never really showed what it took to get who they had to lose to create enough space, and they're not quite there yet. It's been hard so far. Tyler Zeller was waived, and then look at it. Olynyk, Jerebko, Young, and Green all renounced, meaning that they take their number off the books and lose whatever preferred rights they have. That frees up the cap space, but they're not done yet. They still need to shave a couple $1 million or $1 million. Depends how you look at it. And they're going to have to move one or two players. So the conversation is around some of these key rotation players at bigger numbers. And, Ryan, I don't know who you think they're most likely to move. It's hard to just speculate because you have to know what they're going to get back for that player. They're not going to just move them to get rid of them if you're talking about Crowder or Avery Bradley. But I don't know. What's your thought? Who should they move?
Well, I think that last point's a really good one because when we start looking at the cap crunch here, I've just heard people in the last 18 hours or so ask the questions of, well, you just have to dump these guys. They're all assets. You would want Marcus Smart. You would want Avery Bradley. And you would absolutely want Jay Crowder because he has an outdated contract. He's $7 million per, turns 27 today. He's under contract for about 3 more years, just over that $7 million mark. So there will be teams, especially teams with cap space, that miss out on free agency that would want these. So I think the battle, if you're the Celtics here now, is positional depth and saying maybe Crowder Hayward doesn't necessarily fit, but we know the cost certainty of what Crowder is, as opposed to Bradley, who I'm sure they'd rather keep as the basketball player, but knowing that his new contract is going to be far beyond what Crowder's getting paid right now.
Definitely an area worth watching with both of you, Ryan and Tom. You guys will be back next hour, of course, and talk about a possible landing spot for Carmelo Anthony. Look forward to that. Our next WNBA game of the week is a rematch of last year.
On a per-year basis, $100 million over 8 years.
And Jay, speaking of contracts, Dion Waiters agreeing to a 4-year deal with the Heat that's worth $52 million, and it looks like a pretty good decision to opt out of the second year of his deal, which would have paid him $3.2 million this upcoming season. How about that, right?
Yeah, that's a smart decision.
And you don't know when you're doing it, but man, when it pays off, I'm sure it's a welcome sign of relief. Hey, staying with the NBA, we're now going to welcome front office insider Bobby Marks. Bobby, it's great to have you with us. We learned more last night about the Cavaliers' offer to Chauncey Billups to become their president of basketball operations. We learned that it was under $2 million. The offer was well below the average salary. What does that tell you about how Dan Gilbert values this position when he's making a perceived lowball offer to his first choice?
Well, I think what it tells you is that Dan Gilbert has no regard for the general manager's position in the NBA. And I think just talking with league executives yesterday, that the theory is that Dan Gilbert thinks that you can roll out the ball and let LeBron James take over here. And I think he's going to learn the hard way next summer. I really do. And where this Cavaliers team goes next summer, if LeBron James does go into free agency, it's going to be a lesson learned here.
Find that wild when you say learn the hard way, considering he's gone through this already. You know?
I know. And does he think that LeBron is going to stay? Like, what are you hearing that he actually thinks?
Well, I think he's treating it as LeBron James is on the last year of his contract, and the likelihood is that he'll opt out and he'll be a free agent once again, and he'll go through his options right now. And I have high regard for Kobe Altman, their assistant GM, who's taking over right now. But just talking with teams, they regard that job as the hardest in the NBA, and that is not an easy job to take over. And whoever takes over, the question is, do you want to be the person who drives LeBron James out of Cleveland?
Yeah, that's not a good way to start a legacy here.
Look,
Yeah, because you're caught in a tough place. You have an owner who has a high demand, and then you have a superstar, the greatest basketball player right now on the planet, who also has a high demand. You have to find that middle ground, and we saw that previously with Griffin, who did a great job. Let's go to the Celtics here now. Woj and Ramona Shelburne reporting last night that they're in discussions with the Jazz to do a sign-and-trade deal for Gordon Hayward that would send Jay Crowder to Utah. They play the same position. What are the benefits for the Celtics to trade Crowder?
Well, I don't see any benefits right now at all. I don't. I know there's an overload at the small forward position when you drafted Jason Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown, Crowder, and now you had Gordon Hayward. I think it's best to hold on to him and maybe use him and maybe Avery Bradley as an asset in the future here. I think you could still get away with moving a Terry Rozier or Demetrius Jackson, Jordan Mickey. I know you'll be about $300,000 short of the max number, but if I'm the Celtics, I'm going back to Mark Bartelstein, the agent for Gordon Hayward, and saying, hey, this is what we have. We've got 29.3 instead of 29.7 million. We want to use Jay Crowder down the road to maybe get us a center here.
That's fascinating.
It is, right?
Yeah.
You got to position your peeps.
Yes.
As for the Lakers, they've been really quiet this offseason. As you look at the current contracts on their roster, how do you see them being set up for future moves?
Well, I think they're going to be conservative right now. I think you've seen the last 4 days of free agency, one of the few teams that hasn't gone out and made a move. Right now, about $17.2 million in cap space, 12 players under contract. I think you'll see players maybe like a Rajon Rondo sign there for a one-year deal at a high number, at a $10 million number. And that will preserve the Lakers' flexibility next summer. I also think you probably won't see any rookie extension talks when it comes to Julius Randle, just to preserve that room. And what it sets up for the Lakers next summer is we could see a team with $60 to $65 million in cap space. And as you guys know, in a league that a lot of teams have spent the last couple days, including last summer, the Lakers are going to be in the pole position when it comes to free agency in 2018.
Bobby Marks, he's going to be back at 8:45 for more basketball discussions. Bobby, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Hey, we got a standing no here the day before we get the not top 10. Brought to you by Shane Whittington. For this play in the Spurs-Celtics game, makes a nice steal, looks to have an easy bucket. Oh, no. Losing the ball mid-flight. And then he crashes into the cameraman. Yeah, that adds that extra insult right there. Help the man up, man. Yes, please, yes. Guy with the camera. Spurs will go on the win. Shane Whittington is making SportsCenter for all the wrong reasons, and I imagine we will see him again tomorrow.
Kevin, you like pickles?
Yeah.
This is top in a pickle, right?
I've seen some pickles.
From baseball to the NBA, top son, Jason Tatum, an impressive 21 points, 7 boards in the Summer League debut. His mom's proud.
You want him to do so well, but you give him that pregame speech too, like, just be calm down and do your best, and it'll all work out. But I was so proud of him. I mean, 21 points in his debut. I did get on him, though. I was like, I need 3 more rebounds, a double-double.
He listened. He was looking for that double-double for mom against the Spurs. Off the missed 3, yep, flying in. Look at that. Down the lane, the putback jam. He had 10 rebounds in the game, just like his mother ordered. Later, cutting back door, finishing with the 2-handed slam. Another look at that one later on. The Spurs turning it over. Tatum. There you go, 2-handed slam. And then later, Tatum getting down on the break. Taking it down, throwing down, another one-handed slam. 23 points, 10 rebounds. That was his final. The Spurs won, though, 81-70. But you can imagine that he made his mother pretty proud.
Oh, yeah. You know who else is proud? Danny Ainge looking very good. Ainge trading that #1 pick overall to get Tatum at 3rd overall. That #1 pick went to the Sixers and Markelle Fultz. This was on Monday, his debut in the Summer League. That pull-up 3, and then prompted Kevin Durant to tweet out the Hesse pull-up Jimbo was smooth. Fultz from DeMatha High, powerhouse in D.C., same area that Durant's from. Some context here, Markelle.
Yeah, no, it's just saying like a nice heads-up pull-up. I mean, it's back D.C. like DMV talk, but a lot of basketball players, just talk like that, so it's pretty fun.
And Fultz breaking out a couple new moves that we saw on Wednesday. The Washington product, floater in the lane right there. streaking down the court, and then I like this one. A little stop, pop, and drop right there. Silky smooth. He's still, again, this is his first week of playing professional hoops, and yeah, trust the process. The air ball right there. In the fourth quarter, though, the 6'4" combo guard was feeling himself from the outside. The triple, then from the wing, another triple. Inbound pass nearly stolen by Dante Exum, and then Fultz recovers, drives, always in control going in. 23 points, 13 in the fourth quarter, had 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 6 turnovers. Trust the process. Jazz would go on to win by 6 points, but Markelle Fultz showing that he can do it all offensively. Ryan Russillo joining us now. What have you seen from these two guys, Fultz and Tatum? It's 1 week, but what have you seen so far?
You just look for, I think, movements, just certain movements that go, okay, that looks like an NBA player. And those hesitation dribbles from Fultz, like, there's really not much you can do with that. I don't care who you are defensively. And some of these step backs from Tatum and these Tatum's ability to get into a dribble and then just pull up even in transition that we saw glimpses of at Duke when he started handling the ball. Like, that's a shot that just not a lot of guys are even going to hit in the league. So that's the stuff that you see. For the most part, these summer games are terrible. I watched a Pistons Magic one the other day that I thought was a D-League summer league game, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is the NBA. So I don't want to get too carried away with the Summer League stuff because really Summer League, I only use the outcomes that back my opinion of a player. So if I think a guy's great and he has a great Summer League, I'm like, I told you guys. And if I think a guy's terrible, there are so many players that put up huge numbers in Summer League that end up doing nothing. But I think when you're talking about guys that only spent 1 year at college and show you real NBA offensive moves, that's a win for everybody that thinks these players are good, and everybody thinks these guys are great.
That's true. That's true. Let's talk some business now. Ramona Shelburne and Adrian Wojnarowski reporting the Jazz in discussion with the Celtics to do a sign-and-trade deal for Gordon Hayward that would send Jay Crowder to Utah. What are the benefits to the Celtics for the trade Crowder away in the situation, opposing to just releasing?
Well, you don't want to release him because he's actually an asset here. When you think about the fact, and by the way, today's his birthday, so happy birthday to Jay Crowder. He's owed, at 27 years old, 3 more years that average just over $7 million a year. He can shoot from 3. He's a starter in this league. And he's a pretty good defensive player. So there's a lot to like about Jay Crowder. So you would never actually just straight out release him. He's someone you're going to get an asset back for, especially with that contract in today's world. But the problem is that when the cap was calculated here, every team thought there was going to be maybe 3, perhaps even more than that, million to work with. And that's not the case. So it's really, really close for this logjam of all these Celtics players that they've had through the draft the last few years to try to fit this all in to give Gordon the max. Now, for Utah, that's a benefit because at least they're going to get something back here. It doesn't have to match the salary of what Gordon would be doing here. So you'll at least get a little piece back. And Jay Crowder's a starting small forward in the NBA. There's so many forwards on the Celtics team, too, that you think logjam-wise, trying to get Tatum out there, who I believe is better than Jaylen Brown, but still liking Jaylen Brown off his rookie year. That's just a lot of minutes for that forward position.
So then what would you do if you don't think that sending Crowder away is the right move?
Well, you could still move a Marcus Smart if you wanted to. He's 1 year left on his rookie contract. Avery Bradley, I mean, these are players other teams would want. Now, I'm sure they're feeling like I'm going to offer nothing because Ainge is desperate here. Right. But, you're going to be in competition. These are outdated salaries. These are not salaries in today's NBA world. So this isn't really that big of a deal. It's a good news thing for Utah. It could work out even better for Gordon Hayward. And the Celtics should be able to get another piece back from one of these players.
Don't you think you hold on to a guy like Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder for assets down the road, maybe bigger assets right around the trade deadline in February, and maybe you cut some of the rookies or the guys that are making, $2 million?
Well, I don't know where you guys are. I mean, why would anybody be getting cut? Like, you wouldn't be cutting any of these guys. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. Then you try to move one of these guys. The guys that like the Roziers, you can get something, maybe a second
but
round.
those guys make so little money. Like, I was doing the math this morning on it. Like, you would have to just start waiving all of these guys, and you're still like a shade away from what Hayward would be at the max. I get your point, like waiting further on, but they got to figure this thing out to get the contract done. Like, the league's not going to go, hey, you're good for it.
Right.
Unless Hayward will take a little bit less.
Yeah, he could do that too, but not everybody's on that Kevin Durant plan, apparently.
That is true.
So if Marcus Smart's the guy they want to move up, I think they love Marcus Smart, but they'd have to re-sign Marcus, they'd have to re-sign Bradley, and Jay Crowder was mad at the world when they were even cheering Gordon Hayward in Boston, so that might be the one that makes the most sense, and actually might be the most attractive because he's cost certainty for the next 3 years, where you're going to do a new Bradley deal, and you're going to have to figure out how to get Marcus going after his rookie deal.
So then you do think that the Crowder might be the decision that they go with?
Yeah, I think they look at it and going, okay, even when we go small, can we go Hayward? Can we go Crowder? And then where are the minutes for somebody like Tatum, who I think needs to be out there immediately? And they really like what they got from Jaylen Brown his rookie year. All
right. Thank you. Ryan's going to be with us at 9:05 a.m. to talk some more NBA. Thank you, Ryan. 8:20 coming up as we check in on our morning lineup. Will Reeve is going to be here with the inspiring story of Army veteran Sergeant Ryan Major, who's competing in the shot put at the Warrior Games. It's why we love sports. And another home run for Aaron Judge yesterday at 8:29 Eastern. We're going to take you inside the Judge's chambers at Yankee Stadium.